Hey, what's up? This is PJ Morton. My new single, Please Don't Walk Away, is out now, and you can listen to it on Dash Radio. Peace.
Woo, everybody, this is Maiwan here at Dash Radio on the Hollywood Walk of Fame with Grammy award-winning producer, singer, songwriter. If I was to just list your accomplishments, that would be the whole entire interview. PJ Morton, how you doing,
Thank you. I'm good, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Great to have you in.
And this is awesome, being right on Hollywood Boulevard. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. People
like
are going to
gives
be
you the
walking
vibe.
through. We might see some crazy shit. Might see it's Hollywood.
I've seen it. Yeah,
it's Hollywood.
Yeah, for
well,
sure.
I know you've seen it, man. You have such an interesting journey, man.
Yeah.
When it first came across, as far as like, okay, I'm gonna talk to PJ Morton. I was like, Maroon 5. I can't wait. I had a bunch of questions about like from Maroon 5 to going solo. But then I was like, shit, there's layers to this journey.
Yeah.
So you started from a young age. Your pops was a gospel singer, right?
That's right. Yeah, my dad was a pastor and a gospel singer, and that's really where most of the music came from. I mean, his whole family. He's from Windsor, Ontario, Canada, so right across the tunnel from Detroit.
Right there,
And
Motown.
so all of that was happening at the same time. A really big gospel explosion as well as the Motown explosion was happening like simultaneously.
Yeah, they go hand in hand. Like
exactly.
Soul and gospel is really the same. It's just what you're talking about, kind of.
Yeah, one is, I always say one is it's to the person and one is to God. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but it's all love. It's all love conversation, you know. But yeah, that's where the music came from. And I started writing at a really young age.
How young would you say?
I started writing probably 12, 13, but
like
I got
original music.
Yeah, like original music, and got my first placement as a songwriter when I was 15.
Get the hell out of here at 15.
15 years old. Yeah.
What was the song? Do you remember?
It was a song. It was based on it was gospel, so it was based on a scripture in Revelation about candlesticks and it was called "Don't Lose Your Candlestick." It was on this group called Ministander.
Okay.
And 15 years old, I got my first check as a songwriter and a producer, you know, and it changed my life. I was a very serious 15-year-old, you know, because I was like, oh wait, I was gonna do this for free, but I can actually make money doing this. I'm done. I don't want to do anything else in life, you know. And that's kind of when I became.
That was when it was
super crazy. Yeah.
And then from there, your journey just has so many different exits and roadblocks. So one of the most interesting things about PJ Morton's journey is 2011 you signed to Cash Money.
That's right.
And you're from New Orleans.
I am,
So it's like the hometown. At the time, I remember Cash Money too was on top of the world.
Oh man, YMCMB,
world, right?
Even those sweatshirts were coveted, just to have the
that was
those
during
letters.
the Nicki days and the
Nicki, Tiger, Drake, you know, Wayne were taking over the world.
So how did that come about?
Yeah, I think for especially as a soul singer, you know, it seemed odd to people, but there was so much relationship there that people just weren't familiar with, so it seemed odd. But Mac Main, the president of Young Money, and I went to high school together, and so we had ties to each other. We knew each other, and he's been Wayne's best friend since childhood. So there was always a connection. We had a mutual friend, Izzo, who kept us connected. So when we signed, it was literally just a friend of mine saying, P, you know I'm a fan. Let's just do something. We're up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Come over here. Let's see what we can do. Even though it's not what we do necessarily, your family, come on. You know, and that's really what it was. And that's how I was able to really move the way I did. I went there. At that time, a lot of people couldn't even release albums. You know what I mean? Besides Nicki, Wayne, Drake, Tiger. It was a lot of people signed for years.
Absolutely.
I went there, released an album in a year.
New Orleans.
Dope
album.
Yeah, thank you. Had Adam Levine on it. Had
Stevie
on it.
Only one was Stevie.
Yes,
man.
sir. Busta Rhymes was on it. Wayne was on it.
Yeah.
And I did that album, and that was the only album I did. I left after the first album. They graciously let me leave with no craziness. And you know, I've just been rolling ever since.
Yeah.
And went back to what I really know. I was indie for years before that. My first major deal, and I was like, you know what? I'm meant to be an independent, the way I move.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely, man. Yeah. You're very organic, soulful, and I think that sometimes even as fans, when we see our organic indie artists go major, there's just a weird thing we get. You know what I mean? We we prejudge the music before
Facts.
we even hear it.
And that happened when I went to Young Money for sure. And when I put out the record, everybody relaxed because they like, okay, PJ's still PJ. Like,
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Didn't start like auto-tune rapping.
Yeah, I wasn't about to go crazy.
No, you kept it really with your roots. New Orleans. That album was as New Orleans as it gets. You were on a New Orleans label.
For sure.
Well, that's dope. Sure. You grew up with Mac Main.
Yeah.
So in the just random question, in the early Cash Money days, did you know any of them? Were you kind of like around?
There was a studio I went to when I was in high school that was like associated with Cash Money at that time. I remember going in there and they were like, yeah, Manny is making beats in here. I never crossed paths in that way though. I would see Wayne at that time. Wayne's probably like a year younger than me or two, but he used to pull up to the movie theater in like these crazy whips all the time. Lamborghinis and all the, you know what I'm saying? And so I would see him like a kid who was just flexing at this young age, because when you're that young, you can only hang at the mall or the movie theater. Literally. You know what I mean? So he has all this money, but you still can't go anywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Because he blew up at 15, 16.
Oh, yeah. So he had all these cars and all this money, but it's like, but you can only hang.
Yeah,
you can't get in the club, So it was, but we didn't know each other personally. He went to my dad's church. I'm a preacher's kid. Was next door to Abramson, his high school. So I had cousins that taught him at school, so I was around, but didn't really cross. Yeah.
That's so interesting, man, to think you and Wayne grew up so close to each other around the same circles. To think the kind of artist you are versus the kind of artist he is. So different.
Sure. All creativity, though, ultimately.
Absolutely.
That's what the thread, right? It's still the same, so different, but yet can meet
There's that soul.
Yeah, it
There's
can meet somewhere.
That New Orleans soul.
Facts.
Well, I got to give you a gift. So I give every artist I interview an album.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest. I wanted to give you Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life.
Okay.
But I didn't have my copy.
Yeah.
So I figured another Motown classic that you might have listened to growing up.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to give you that Marvin Gaye, What's Going On.
Oh, man. I appreciate it. I love gifts. Of course,
man.
Yeah, this is a classic, of course.
And so you actually have family ties to Motown. Your uncle, right, played with Aretha?
That's right. Yeah, I didn't know. And I didn't know you knew that. That's you.
Yeah,
You did your
little bit of research, man.
Yeah, my Uncle Jimmy played for Aretha's dad. Her dad was a huge pastor at the time in Detroit. Okay. So he was his musician and traveled with him and became like a mentor to my uncle. But since my uncle played, they would ask him to play on certain Motown records sometimes. And so it was just always music in there, and tied to it. My father and Aretha remained close, for her, until she passed away.
Rest in peace.
So the ties were there.
The Motown ties are really there.
Yeah, for sure.
So your music now, what's so dope is you could actually like put your music on an old Motown compilation album, and it would fit right in there.
Sure.
But to me, it's so cool because what you did with Maroon 5, and you've alluded to this, you hit all your milestones.
I did.
You've done everything from SNL to the Grammys. You've done everything an artist would dream to do. Mm-hmm. And now, do you feel like that gives you the freedom as an artist to kind of do what you want?
Yeah, I think it freed me up. It was like, because you spend so much time trying to get to these things, whatever they are, these things these goals you've set for yourself, and your life and your career becomes a constant, like, going towards that. And so when I started to hit those things, it kind of freed me up. Like, all right, I don't necessarily have to prove anything. So now let me just do what I feel and not worry about the consequences, not worry about how many records it sells or how many spins it gets on radio. And what that ends up doing is making you make some of the best music that you ever make. Absolutely. You're thinking that, man, I'm about to make something that's so me, people might not get into it because this is really me. I mean, I know I told you that was me, but like now I'm really giving you me, and you might not like this, because I'm into weird stuff and I'm into and I grew up on this. But what happens is it becomes a true, authentic expression,
Yeah.
And that's what connects more than any melody, more than any lyric. People feel a real thing happening,
Absolutely.
And so that's what started to happen. And what I thought was something that might alienate me kind of pushed me forward, and that's when it started to open up and really make sense, you know.
That's such a beautiful thing, man, because I think a lot of artists go through so much mental stress trying to accomplish these things.
Sure.
And thank God, man, that you tried out for, if I read correctly, you tried out for Maroon 5 because someone went on like a leave of absence. Yes.
Well, yeah. So the leave of absence happened later. So initially, when I tried out for Maroon 5, it was both of us there, me and Jesse, who the original keyboard player. So for 2 years, I wasn't in the pictures. From 2010 to 2012, I was touring with the band as a keyboard player. But, you know, we weren't even sure if I was going to be a part of the band. I was just like, let's do this tour and see how it goes, you know, 11 years later. But at that point, it was both of us. And then I think unbeknownst to me, Jesse knew that he wanted to take a break, which is why he maybe was grooming me to be there as a keyboard player.
Okay.
So Jesse left and went on, he went on a hiatus, but then came back. And now we both exist. But he plays mostly guitars now.
Okay.
I'm the main keyboard player. But it's been a crazy ride, man.
I
you
can
know,
imagine.
going
all
into
around
that.
The world.
Yeah. And it was, you know, pre-moves like Jagger, post-moves like Jagger. You know, even those eras are totally different, but like totally crazy. You know,
absolutely, man.
And it's been a ride. I'm grateful for those guys. So.
Absolutely, man. And I think they're very grateful for you as
sure.
well.
Oh, the love is mutual for sure.
Have you been able to put in input with like Maroon 5's music, like in the studio? Are you actually in there helping write some of the songs and stuff?
You know what generally happens more often than not? I mean, we've made a few things from scratch. It's much different than I think when the band first started, when they would get in the room and write. You know, they're songwriters, and most of my input is coloring within the lines, you know, of what exists.
Layering the songs.
It's like, yeah, you played the keys that way, but if I were to play it, I would play it this way. So it's not really structuring, but it's putting my signature. I think that's the best way to say it. And honestly, I feel like if I wanted to, I could definitely be more involved in that. You know, and this may be crazy or selfish in a way, but for my sanity, it's like I kind of like being hands off with Maroon. You know, because I have to carry so much weight as a solo artist. You know, there's so much work that goes along with that because you're really yourself. I mean, at the end of the day, it's you that has to keep the train rolling. So I kind of like with Maroon, I like being the keyboard player, you know, and the singer, in the background singer. It's like, you got it, Adam. You make that decision. You do. You know what I mean? Not even wanting the pressure of that.
Absolutely. That's what I was about to say.
But the love and respect is there. Where if I felt strongly about something, everybody's open to that. You know, they know who I am and what I do, and you know, I think we just have a rhythm that works. And I don't really try to mess with that rhythm too much. You know, it works.
And you get your own, like your solo career allows you to express yourself entirely.
100%.
Like A to Z.
100%.
So with your solo career, you're doing everything from producing. You have your hands on the production, the songwriting, the singing. I feel like I know the answer, and it's probably obvious. But what process do you enjoy more, like creating wise?
Yeah, that's always a weird question for me because they do totally different things for me. You know, I am when I'm writing and producing, and by the way, before I ever wanted to be an artist or anything, I was producing and writing from, I told you, 15 years old. I had no desire at that point to sing or be in front at all.
Oh, you were just
I wanted to write songs for people and play for people. That was the extent of my dreams, you know. And then I started to write these songs that I felt were unique to me, saying it's like, all right, well, maybe I'll sing them, you know. But it was really not like me wanting that, you know, initially. But so as a producer, songwriter first, I love that process of making something from out of nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and then coming out with this thing that then these people sing along with, and it becomes a part of their lives. There's nothing to that, but to me, they're just joined, you know, because making it doesn't give you the fulfillment until, for me, you're seeing those people in front of you singing it and playing it. So they're like me picking my favorite kid. You know?
Yeah, it's tough, right?
I don't want to do that.
There's advantages, disadvantages.
For sure.
Well, it must be very, like, in some instances, sobering to go from with, obviously Maroon 5 is such a 1 in a million success. So what you guys have done is astronomical, right?
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
And you've done shows in front of millions of people. You've done a show, hundreds and thousands, seas of people.
Yeah.
And then, obviously when you do shows yourself, you're one individual. It's going to be smaller crowds, and you're rebuilding that. Is it ever, like,
well, I'm not as big as
sobering?
Maroon 5, yeah.
Is it ever weird?
It's refreshing. I mean, for me, the gap is not as huge as it used to be, where I used to go from, like, a private jet to a 15-passenger van, and have to drive it. You know what I'm saying? That there used to be that gap. At least I'm on a bus now. You know what I'm saying? We got some Grammys now.
No, you're a Grammy winner. Yeah, I don't mean to discredit you at all.
No. It's a very real thing. Maroon is in the top 5% of. I mean, it's
top
rare
1%
space.
of artists.
Yeah,
really.
it's rare space.
Yeah.
So I don't expect to. So yeah, it's crazy going from. Going from Wrigley Field and then, but like I said,
Peppermint
I'm not playing the
Club,
small clubs anymore. But yeah, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, that's a real thing. But it made me appreciate, it's almost like not being able to appreciate the sun without like darkness,
Oh, that's true.
Or like a beautiful day without there having some rainy ones. So it's like, for me, usually now it's been literally 11 years of this, but usually when I'm just about tired of Maroon, and us touring and need a break, I get this breather and then I get to go to my thing. And then just about the time I'm getting tired of my thing, it's like, all right, time to do some Maroon stuff. So for me, man, it's an amazing problem to have. And it's
a beautiful
it's like
thing.
such a gift. But yeah, that's sobering, but that keeps me humble, man. It's like, listen, as big as you think you are, and that's great, your Grammys but like, yeah, you're not on this private jet, and you didn't just play Wrigley Field.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, man.
But that's beautiful to me.
It really is.
Yeah,
Actually,
it's beautiful.
Now, like, having heard it from your mouth, I can see that you get to experience the intimacy of like seeing each fan and talking to them and getting to know them.
Yeah,
but then
man.
also that superstardom of getting out of the airport.
Like I get to check all my boxes, man. I feel guilty with how lucky I am sometimes with that.
Man.
It's like, but it keeps me very low and very even keel, because it's like I could be at either of these levels at any point. This could change at any point. Just be grateful and be present,
Absolutely, man. And you hear it in your music just how much you love what you do. It's so like raw and soulful.
Thank you, man.
Please don't walk away. It really feels like an old school Stevie Wonder joint.
Yeah.
Almost to the point where I was like, is this a cover of like some Stevie or something? Because you have How Deep Is Your Love,
Yes.
And that you crushed that. You understood
Thank
the
you.
assignment and delivered on that. But
it
Please
worked
Don't
out.
Walk Away really sounds like it's from that same vein.
Yeah.
You wrote, produced that?
I did.
I
wrote and produced it from scratch. And
you wrote and produced it entirely from scratch?
I did, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And
wow.
I had to check a couple of times, like, is this another song? Like, it felt that familiar that I went and did research. As I was like, am I copying?
Right, it did
you have to do
familiar.
that as song. You had to do that sometimes as a songwriter to see if you're not copying. And I sent it to friends, like, is this something, you guys? But, and I love that it feels that way. And that it in fact wasn't anything,
Cool.
And it was like, that's when you hit something.
Yeah,
when
absolutely.
it's like, I know this, but I don't, this is brand new, So, to your point, I agree with you. It is a familiar, classic soul thing to it,
Yeah, it really felt like a cover of something I had heard from like the 70s or the 80s.
For sure.
Because that does happen, to allude to what you mentioned. Ed Sheeran, when he wrote Shape of Your Body, he didn't intend to sample Waterfalls, or No Scrubs, TLC. But it happened after the fact. They came to realize he had kind of taken the same melody. Sure. So yeah, you checked. You hit up all the homies.
I'm hypersensitive to that. I've been a songwriter for a long time, so we're always checking. Like, are we copying that? Is that a copy? Because you listen to so much and you're influenced by so much. So sometimes, I know there's a famous like Maroon 5 story where they were like killing the song, killing it, like cut it, had the melody, got to the end of it, and they're like, yo, this is Since You've Been Gone. This is Kelly Clarkson's song.
Did it ever come out? Or did they
No. This was during the writing process. This is actually before I was a part of the band, but they always talk about that story. But that happens to us as songwriters all the time.
Absolutely, you're just naturally inspired by something.
But no, I overly checked, and we have an original.
Okay, dope.
It would Please Don't Walk Away. So I'm really proud of it.
And it sounds great, man.
Thank you, man.
Reception's been great. Everything I've read online, everyone loves it. I personally love it. Like it's in all my rotations now.
Word.
But what are we building up to? So you dropped your album Paul. Was that 2018?
That was 2019.
Yeah,
we won for Best R&B Song in 2020.
JoJo.
That's right, for Say So.
God, that record Say So is so crazy.
Thank you, man. Proud of that one. Me and Joe really, we really like found a cool rhythm. That song, you got to come to a live show one day and hear.
I would love to.
How I don't have to sing that song at all, like because the audience is like singing every line.
I will be singing it myself. I'll be doing the like. Yeah. But wait, what are we building to now? Do we got another project?
So I am writing right now and working hopefully towards a new album next year.
Ooh.
I'm really trying to take my time. If anything, the pandemic just made me make sure that I'm being intentional every time I'm saying something, because it literally could be the last time. We don't know. Like we see that life is finite. It's like we've lost so many. So I'm just not in a serious way. I mean, that doesn't mean a serious record it just means intentional. You know what I'm saying? I can intentionally make a funny song, but like it's serving a purpose, and I'm being intentional about that. So I'm writing, man. I'm excited. It's a creative time for me. We're talking off mic, and I felt not creative for a moment in the pandemic, but then it hit me like a wave.
You moved home.
Yeah.
You moved home, right?
Yeah. Well, I was.
That.
Well, I was already back in New Orleans, but
okay.
I was home. I mean, my kids were looking at me like, "What you doing? You never here this long. Like, what's going on?" We all had to get reacquainted. So I was home for real. Not just live there. But after I took a break and didn't do any music, then it started to hit me, and I really started to feel that creative. But it was one thing at a time. So I was like, I'm not gonna rush it. I'm not gonna go to it. I don't have to put out an album right now. But if it says that to me and it speaks to me and it's starting to do that, so hopefully a new record next year.
Hell yeah, it's exciting, man. It's exciting because so far everything you've dropped from, I want to say your first record, I don't remember the name of it, 2011, but everything you've dropped has been so much progress, and you've grown so much as an artist.
Thank you,
I think this next one's going to be your magnum opus, your songs in the key of life.
We hope so,
You know
man.
what I mean? You're what's the Sade Love Deluxe?
It's for sure. Yeah, the Thriller, right? I always say that off the while I was leading up to Thriller.
Yeah.
I say Kanye, his late registration was leading up to Graduation, but then he went and did. Yeah. But no, I hear you. I hope so. I know so. I received that energy.
I know so. It's gonna be great, man.
Here's how. We're
gonna wrap this.
We got Philip going, so
Philip's
we
always going, man.
Yeah.
Here's how I know you're a genius. The orange beanie. Have you seen the thing online about orange beanies?
Oh, they say the geniuses or something?
Yeah, it's like Andre 3000 always has it on.
That's
Kanye,
true.
Frank Ocean.
I'm wearing
PJ
the right
Morton.
Uniform.
You had the uniform on.
All right,
right when you walked in, I was like, fuck, man. Goddamn Grammy winners in their orange beanies.
Oh, man, there's something to it.
I'm about to go get some orange beanies.
There you go, man. Yeah, we're walking your genius, man.
Yeah, man. Well, we got PJ Morton, man.
Yes,
Thank you so much for everything you've done for the culture, from your work with Indie RE to work with LL Cool J, man, to your journey Maroon 5, to all this solo work. I appreciate everything you've given to the culture. And I feel like you're just getting started.
Much love. Hey, man, I'm with you. We're going to keep rolling.
Absolutely.
Keep being creative, keep saying something, and keep having fun,
Hell yeah.
Ultimately, this music is supposed to be fun.
Yeah, man. It seems like you're having a good time, man.
I'm having a good time.
Keep that journey up, man. From New Orleans to LA with love, everybody. It's PJ Morton, your boy Maroon. Please don't walk away.
Please don't walk away.
Out now, everybody.
Let's go. It's out everywhere right now. Let's go.
All right, everybody. We out. Peace.